not grandma.
No
not
tuxedos here.
No
Yes.
tuxedos here. You know, I want to be a rebel.
He was leather.
Okay, leather, chains. You know, hard rock, metal, Led Zeppelin type stuff. And it's like, wow, this is it. This is what I want to do. Those are the guys and girls I want to party with.
Yeah. Did we skip over Salem's Lot though? Because that was a different take on vampires altogether. They were just kind of stupid.
Well, they were Nosferatu.
Yeah, that was like 1980,
They were
wasn't it?
Nosferatu. That was like
What?
79,
Yeah,
80.
79,
Yeah,
yeah.
79, 80, yeah. Yeah, that was a departure too. I mean, and then you had the horror writers, of course.
Well, I'm big on the vampires in literature. I mean, that's like Dracula was my favorite book in grade school, period. I read it a bazillion times.
Right. Crestwood House books for me, man. That was it. I read that Dracula book from cover to cover, and I always looked at it, was just like, oh my god, this is so cool. I want to know these people, you know.
I would say probably around like 5th grade was my big turn where I was like, I just started reading I read Stoker, of course. And then that's where I really started digging into other things down the road, which it led me into Anne Rice.
Oh, yeah.
I've read all of her vampire books, except for like the last one, Prince Lestat and Atlantis, because it sounds like a fairy tale.
Well, things did get squirrely later on in her career.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's only, 40 years later from the first book, I think was written in 76.
It is 40, yeah. 1979 is when I first read it.
Yeah, I think it was 76 is when it came out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you're right.
And then Salem's Lot came out about 3 years later.
Yep.
Those were all obviously older when I was young. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I read some of those, and then really got into, like, probably in the 90s is really when I got into the, like, Anne Rice run. And that brings a lot of romanticism, depending on the book.
Yes.
But for the most part, the main line of books are all about romanticism. Now, the difference is that it's very polyamorous. You know, there is no male, female necessarily when you're a vampire.
Yeah.
You know, as far as like love goes, and their love's generally not physical in any way, shape, or form. And those are the people that they love. Generally, are the ones they keep alive.
And they could really work with time in those books in the movies too. They could work with the passage of time to kind of show the progression of these people being vampires all the way back in the Victorian age or plantation days or whatnot.
The Renaissance.
Well,
Renaissance all the way until now. You know,
Well, being side by side with somebody for
all the way back
300
to
years.
Yeah, exactly.
Babylon, you know.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's Lynn's Anne Rice writing too. Is she was a history major. A history teacher, actually, professor. So, like, when she writes about being in Babylon, you're like in Babylon.
You're in Babylon.
Going down the street. You know what I mean? So, super amazing there. So, that lends itself very well to writing about immortal creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then in her second book, she tied back Lestat in with a rock band.
See?
Yeah. Now you're connecting Lost Boys with Lestat and drawing that back into it and, reinvigorating the mythos, the modern mythos, in a new way.
Instead of going campy in the 70s and then more slasher-esque in the 80s, then you brought it back into more of, in the 90s, you brought it back more into that Interview with a Vampire. There was the life of a vampire.
Or the 90s that we got started getting like the horror, the vampire comedies.
Oh, in the 80s? Like Once Bitten?
Once Bitten.
No, 1967, Dance with the Vampires, a Polanski's movie.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was a total
was
parody,
the one.
Yeah.
That was the very first one. You had campiness.
But I mean, as a whole, where it was like kind of steady there for a while, it seemed like we got quite a few. Polanski was way ahead of his time because
he did what was it? The Fabulous Vampire Hunters?
Gosh, I can't remember but it's something Vampire Hunters.
Yeah, that was
Captain Kronos.
Yeah, that
Kronos.
That was Kronos' character.
Yeah.
Then you had, of course, Polanski's movie in, I think, 1967, and that has been perpetuated even to today with Dance of the Vampires on stage.
Absolutely.
Well, I
think that actually leads into What We Do in the Shadows a little bit. I think there's
fucking A.
Some inspiration from that.
Absolutely.
Would you like some biscuitis? Because they actually do throw back to Lost Boys. They're like, well, we took that one from Lost Boys. Because like at one point they have their guests over and they're sitting down. And he's like, would you like some biscotti? And so he makes this guy eat some spaghetti. He's like, how do you like your biscotti? And he's like, well, I'd like it better if it was warm because they just poured it on a plate. And then he's like, how do you like your worms? and the guy's like, "Oh my god, I'm eating worms," And so they add in the comedy for it, and I think that was the best comedy interpretation of vampires,
absolutely,
because it's more natural.
But I could see how it could be inspired from.
Yes,
it could be inspired from Lost Boys, from original Dracula, from Anne Rice.
I just think Polanski set that tone.
Oh yeah,
for the comedy side.
That's that new branch on the tree,
exactly,
and the new perspective. Not necessarily overly sexual.
I think that the new movie, Jojo Rabbit, is going to be that kind of a movie for a different genre, nothing to do with Dracula.
Oh, okay.
But you should check that out.
The Fearless Vampire Killers.
Fearless Vampire Killers. Yeah.
See, I knew I was
because it had Sharon Tate in it, didn't it?
Huh?
That one had Sharon Tate in it, didn't it?
The Fearless Vampire Killers had Sharon Tate. That was
it had Sharon Tate. It had
Roman Polanski,
and then it had Vincent Price, right? And then
Vincent Price.
Yeah, he was in that movie. I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember him being in that movie.
Who is it?
I remember The Word of the Lock with Boris Karloff.
What was the one that Vincent Price was in with the squirrely dude that's been in so much shit?
Dude.
Which squirrely dude? There's a squirrel.
Squirrel.
Yeah, no, the guy that God fucking he was on all the 1930s movies. He was on Casablanca.
Oh, Bogart?
No. He's not squirrely. He was a badass.
He was a badass.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be like, wait.
Yeah. It's not Claude Rains either.
So while you're looking that up, like the reason I brought that up was because of Once Bitten. It was weird that you said that, but that was a Jim Carrey movie, correct?
Yeah.
Once Bitten was Jim Carrey. That was his very first movie, his very first stage presence.
Really?
I think that was his first movie.
Yeah. First movie. Yeah,
I didn't know it.
Yeah, and
a
it was
lot of
so
stars
fucking
started off
cheesy.
with bad vampire movies.
Hey, that was a great movie.
The ice cream truck and shit.
Oh God,
Peter
okay,
Lorre
so
is what I'm thinking of.
Peter Lorre, yes,
right.
Peter Lorre was there,
and so it wasn't a great movie. It's okay.
It's all right.
It wasn't that good. I'll get the movie that I was thinking of with Peter Lorre in it and Vincent Price. Because it was a really good one. But now we really kind of hit into the 90s where you have Interview with the Vampire, and then what other movies?
Well, before that, 92, you had Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Well, you had Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Well, but it had Bram Stoker in the title, so you knew you were getting
the book.
Which was perfect.
Which was a rehash from the 79.
Right.
And all that genre. But again, you had a newer...
Well, and you had Coppola's cinematography, which is... He just does a great job.
And then, most of that stuff was practical effects done by his son, too.
I know, right?
That movie is an incredible watch. If you
want
to study film,
yeah, absolutely.
you study that movie.
Hopkins was amazing in it. I don't think you could have got a better person for that role.
No,
Winona
Ryder.
Absolutely.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah,
he was the best Dracula. I can't even talk.
I was thinking about the Raven with him.
The Dracula.
And
Dracula?
I think you're coming down with
Dragula.
I said
Dragula. Yeah,
Dragula.
Well, see,
that
we
was a
haven't
movie, I'm sure, back in the 70s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
an album.
That Bram Stoker's Dracula was probably has to be one of the best interpretations of them.
It is my favorite of all the Draculas.
Yeah, I like the original.
I know you
one.
like Bela Lugosi a lot, and I don't dislike Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
This is just my favorite of all the iterations of Dracula.
Oh man, there was just so many good parts in that movie, and the way that they did the narrative, to where he was writing the letters, and they were showing that background on the train, and they were showing, they had even Carrie Elways was in it.
Yeah,
heard that guy was a jerk. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. Everybody says he's like a jerk at all the deals that he does.
Oh,
he's
really?
probably better now, but but there were so many like really awesome ones. Yeah, that's coming.
Oh yeah.
And that kind of because they didn't come out with the second part of Anne Rice's one until like 2001 or 2.
Yeah, it was a while.
That was
after
Queen of the Damned, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was not happy with that.
No, nobody
Well,
was.
no, nobody was. When they first casted, who did Lestat in the original one?
Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Everybody was upset about that.
But he did a decent
job. But he did an
job.
awesome job.
Okay.
You couldn't have asked for
good
more. He did a
job.
perfect job for, absolutely.
That's why when people say, oh, you're going to do this with this character now? You can't do that. No, you can't.
Right.
If you don't do something new and different, like Lost Boys,
Right.
something new, different, be iconoclastic, break out of the mold, start a new graft on the family tree,
Right.
and see what grows.
That grew into something that actually could have been really good too. I mean, I think if they would have continued those in that same style.
Well, there's talks of them doing a series,
like a TV show.
Yeah, but not like on TV, but like on HBO or one of those.
Yeah, I think they've been in talks for a long time for those.
Well, no, there was one and it broke, but there's recently been one where it seems like it might have some traction.
Cool.
So I'm hoping so.
Well, so many people love those books. The books and the mythos in that one, they built upon everything and like exploded.
It was so interconnected, and then if you're into that anyways, it goes back all the way to Sumerian times,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Like on the way that they became vampires is a little bit different. You know what I mean? There's like a blood demon basically that infects this queen.
Oh,
so
you gotta love it.
Passes it along.
They always go after the women.
So now we get to the 2000s, and at the late 90s.
Before we go
the late
on.
90s.
Well, no, yeah, there we go.
Well, also, I remember hearing something about a Mel Brooks Dracula in 1990s.
Oh yeah. With surely you can't be saying that.
Leslie
Nielsen.
Nielsen.
That
You can't.
guy.
Don't call me
Leslie
Shirley.
Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
Was it Dracula Dead and Loving It?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's it.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
That was so bad. It was good.
Well, that was like all the other, Naked Gun style movies.
Oh,
to
yeah.
me, very
Same
much,
lineage.
Yeah.
But it was great.
No, it was awesome. Yeah.
Well, a little bit back to the 70s, because in Marvel Comics and in DC Comics, they were doing a lot of horror comics in the 70s.
Yep.
So, like you said, Gene Colan,
Tomb of Dracula.
Then you had all the kung fu stuff at that time too. There was a lot of things that were kind of going on in the 70s. They were trying a lot of new things, and they had Werewolf by Night. They had a lot of that really
Didn't
cool
Hammer
stuff.
make a kung fu Dracula movie?
Yeah,
Yes,
the Seven Golden Vampires,
Yeah.
based upon China and Count Dracula. I mean, absolutely. Somebody was taking a little too much LSD when they came up with that screenplay.
And
They got it made.
What's really,
They did,
that's
though.
the part. It was the people that were reading that screenplay. Those people were on too much LSD.
yeah.
Or not enough.
Yeah, they're like, no, this is a great
Answer.
idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they should have gone with something natural, perhaps a psilocybin, but go on.
Oh,
we hit
better living through chemistry.
with that they were trying to reinvent the wheel again, and they really kind of brought Blade out, the first Marvel cinematic
There you go.
movie, really.
Yeah.
Not the
which was-
first one, but
no,
the first
but
really
really,
big one that brought
yeah,
everything up.
It was the first good Marvel movie ever.
Yeah. You can't say any of the 90s Punisher ones or anything like that were that good, but nothing.
Yeah, there was nothing
that.
before that. That was
Yeah.
it. Blade was the first.
Blade was the
Marvel
first
movie.
one. Yeah.
And it was a vampire. It was a monster movie.
Yes.
So it was amazing that that's what hit. And
And
really led them to be able to build this genre that they have now. Of
Was it
movies.
PG-13 or
It was.
yeah.
Everything had to be PG-13. That was like a comic book character at the time, I think.
No, it was rated R actually.
Was it the first one?
Blade was actually rated R.
Originally released as R?
Yes, that's what I think. Yeah,
Mm.
might have been.
Might have been redone.
But I
the
remember-
director's cut.
But I remember.
But I remember it being badass when I was in
Yeah.
the theater watching it.
people
Oh,
loved
yeah.
it. People loved it like all the way through.
Daywalker.
I never really did love it at the time, but I do respect it now because I think Blade 2 was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's because you're a Del Toro hack.
And Blade 3 was actually pretty decent too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
But
I actually liked all the Blade movies, and I know everybody hates Trinity, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I that was like my main one into it. I saw the first one, and then that was the one that was in theaters when I was like hearing about it, and I was like, "Ooh, check it out! I loved it." Yeah, I agree with
it's
you.
an awesome
Yeah.
movie.
Well, and
yeah.
they did much better than what they thought.
Yeah,
they
definitely
they did not expect.
They
that
tapped
to
a
be,
different genre. They
Yeah.
tapped a different demographic, just like Lost Boys tapped into a younger generation full of angst and acceptability.
Lost Boys was like my one of my rite of passage movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was like the movie that I remember getting it like on video when I was like 12,
Yeah.
13,
the
something
tone
like that.
and the colors of that movie really do kind of draw you into it too. It's a darker movie all the way through.
Way
so,
dark.
So they really did kind of open it up for what happened in the 90s and then what happened with the Blade.
Like even well, go on. Yeah,
no, I
I'll
was
leave
done.
that alone.
Yeah.
But now,
We were about to have another digression, so I just
Yeah.
stopped.
Thank you very much.
so now we've gotten to the period of now.
Did we get to no, we're not to now.
No, we're not.
No,
to
we
now.
got
About
2000s.
near dark.
Yeah.
We said that, right?
Wait, are we in
John Carpenter's Vampires?
John Carpenter's Vampires. We didn't really mention that.
That
one.
was
I think that
90s?
should be one we
Yeah,
met.
that was a strange one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
was
I
a
have
strange
not seen
movie.
that, yeah.
But a good one.